6 o'clock as possible. So I will go ahead and get started because we do value your time. First off, thank you for participating to be a judge for the 2017 PLTW Innovation Portal Engineering Design Competition, which is presented by Chevron, or brought to you by Chevron. We do greatly appreciate that, as well as thank you for joining us today as well. Real quick, again, my name is Ryan Harkleroad. I am the Partnerships Manager here, and kind of that's just where I manage day-to-day potential or existing partner relationships, along with overseeing the Innovation Portal and kind of hosting competitions as well. And then I'll turn over to Elliot Mork here for a few remarks as well. Elliot? Are you there, Elliot?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not unmute. That's actually the first thing I do is ask you if I unmuted. So, and you can find the chat box. So, if you could please let me know that I successfully unmuted and that you can see my screen. Go ahead and find the chat box and send me a chat that you can find me. That chat box is also a really good spot to ask questions. We're kind of at that threshold of group size, whether unmuting and muting ourselves might work. And I know for some of us in the evenings we might have some noise in the background. So if you can manage that muting, if we start getting some feedback with noises, then we'll mute all of the participants, and then we'll just take questions in through the chat. But hopefully it'll be fine with this small of a group. My name is Elliot Mork. I'm the Director of Partnerships here at Project Lead the Way, oversee the Innovation Portal and all the competitions that are hosted on it. So we are very excited to have you. This is a great opportunity for students and you to see the work that students are doing, but students get to have some national level recognition for their participation in this competition, and this is the first year, so it's pretty exciting thing for students, and we thank you for participating today in this and your work that you're going to be doing evaluating student work. So this is the first time we've done this competition, so we're very excited to have you. I think, Ryan, I think you're going to take us through a few slides to start with. I might need to unpause there. Ryan, you can go ahead and take the slides.
Thank you, Elliot. Real quickly, I'll just kind of give you guys an overview of what we will be covering today. I'll briefly give you guys a very high level of what Project Lead the Way is, because we do know, as we were talking about previously before the call started, we do have an array of judges on the line today. It sounds like all over the country today, so we will be looking into that as well. As well as I'll kind of go over in more detail about the competition scope and the parameters, just so you have a better understanding of what to be expecting as you are reviewing the competition portfolios. I'll go over the timeline as well. We'll make sure everyone and kind of go over the steps of creating your own Innovation Portal account. A large majority of you have already done this, but we'll still go over that so you can kind of know what to look for and where that is within the portal. We'll also go over how to actually access the portfolios that when they are assigned to you. We'll go over the rubric in detail and accessing that as well. And then one important thing that we will be kind of really stressing is the time when you can review the portfolios and when they need to be submitted back to us, because we do have very tight turnaround times to make sure everything can happen smoothly, not only for us, but for the students as well that are participating, because they are anxiously awaiting feedback as well to know if they made the top 3. Give me 1 second here. All right. At a very high level, Project Lead the Way, we are a nonprofit organization that provides a transformative learning experience for K-12 students and teachers across the United States. We are currently in all 50 states, including Washington, D.C. Our network consists of over 35,000 teachers, nearly 2 million students. We are roughly at 9,000 plus schools. And then one thing I'll talk about in the next slide as well is the programs. We have over 10,000 programs as well. So we have 5 programs at Project Lead the Way. The first one being considered Launch, which is our elementary school program. And then from there, students have the ability to move to middle school, which is our Gateway program. And then at high school, students have the ability or the opportunity as well to participate in a computer science pathway, engineering pathway, as well as biomedical science pathway. So each of those kind of fall in their own pathway. We are extremely unique because students can essentially take Project Lead the Way K through 12 through their entire education careers up until college. So that's something we are very excited about. So the competition scope. First off, this is our first engineering design competition that has been fully ran by Project Lead the Way. We have had other competitions before, but we just kind of supported those. So we are excited. We are as well taking feedback. So as you're doing something, if something doesn't seem right, don't be afraid to reach out and let us know. Students as well as teachers are extremely excited about this opportunity because this is something that is extremely unique to Project Lead the Way and new. So people are always looking forward to that. One thing we did to kind of help provide feedback, or not feedback, I guess I'm looking for, one thing to help provide guidance to the schools was to create a theme or a project around this, and that this year is going to be your community's infrastructure, to create or improve something in your area around the infrastructure. So that's something I think we can all agree on is relative and in the news every day as well. As well as something is this is a national competition. We currently have over 15 states that have registered for this competition, and we are expecting anywhere from 50 to 70 portfolios as well. So again, we are extremely excited for that, and we are extremely pleased with this first go around as well. Eligibility, students will be able to participate if they are in 9th through 11th grade, and we have asked that they have their prizes, I guess not prizes, we've asked that students are in groups of 2 to 4. Student recognition, one of the great things that we are doing is awarding our top 3 groups, with first prize being a trip to the PLTW Summit or conference that we host in October, where students will have the opportunity not only to present their projects or their project, as well as potentially be brought up on the main stage and presented their award or plaque. As well as schools, the top 3 schools will be receiving a scholarship or a grant that they can use to implement Project Lead the Way or enhance their programs. As well as all students that participate will be receiving Beats headphones as well. I think we can all agree that Beat headphones are something that students do greatly enjoy. Moving right along to the competition timeline, this is a very tight turnaround, not only for us as judges, but as well as for the students. So this competition officially launched on March 1st. So that was the first time students had the ability to actually learn about this competition and to start registering. So roughly the projects are only going to be, students have only put about 60 days work of information in there. So do keep that in mind as you are reviewing them. On April 19th, the registration will close. And then from there, on April 26th, the submission deadline as well is when the deadline will be for students to successfully submit their portfolios to us. And then like I've mentioned from there, so between April 26th and May 1st, Elliot and myself will be working very diligently to get the portfolios assigned out to our judges. And we hope to actually do that on or before May 1st. And then from May 1st to the 12th, we ask that you do review the portfolios. And then on the 12th, you go ahead and have those submitted to us. And if you're someone that potentially are not going to have the ability to review your portfolios until the 12th or the end of the time frame, please just let us know by emailing innovation@pltw.org. That way, we understand that you know they're there. You just are waiting to get to it or you have other priorities. So do let us know if you will be postponing that or will be waiting to judge closer to the end date. And then for the week of May 15th is when we actually hope to notify the schools and the top 3 winners of that as well. So I kind of gone over a lot of things. I do want to kind of open it up for questions. Does anyone have any initial questions right off the bat before I move forward? Wonderful. So moving forward, going over the kind of the work or the flow of how you guys are being connected to judge competitions as well as having portfolios assigned to you. If you are currently having any issues or you did not receive that initial invitation to become a judge, please do email innovation@pltw.org, and we'll be more than happy to kind of walk you through those steps and make sure you get set up correctly. So from there, you do create an account at innovationportal.org, as well as then we also have sent you an invitation. Once you accept that invitation, that is automatically tying you to this competition. So you automatically are there. No further actions will be needed on your part. And you can either accept that through the email that we have sent out to you, or you can also accept that within the Innovation Portal view as well. And then from here, Elliot's going to take over and kind of walk through the steps of kind of how a portfolio is made, as well as the judging rubrics as well.
All right, thank you, Ryan. So one more thing to note on this slide here is that we sent you a smart sheet to register. You may have gone to the Innovation Portal and filled out just a little form. That's how we're tracking all of the judges and making sure that you have the right communication. So whatever email address you gave us in that registration page is what is the invitation from the Innovation Portals that we're going to send the invitation to. So if you want to use a different email, that's fine with us. We just need to know what it is. So if the email is different from what you submitted on the Innovation Portal, which I know a few of you have a different email through the Humankind volunteer system, is the Smart Sheet system that on the Innovation Portal that you use. So just let us know which one you'd like to use, and if we sent it to the wrong email address, we'd be happy to correct that for you. And then another note on that email address: when you get an email from the Innovation Portal that to an invitation to judge, that link is only good once. It's a one-time use link. So if you click that and get a 404 or a 500 server error, that means you're already a judge connected to that competition. You've already used that one-time link. So you're probably good to go. But I'll show you when we go to the click-through on the Innovation Portal how to verify that you're connected in as a judge as well. So to give you a little bit about the student perspective, what the work they've done, I think it's always helpful when I'm judging something to understand the scope and parameters that the students were given to know kind of what the level of expectation I should have on them for a judge. So students can create a portfolio on the Innovation Portal. We think of that portfolio as kind of like a 3-ring binder. It has a cover page, that plastic insert on the front, and then tabs along the side of different categories. So they were given that rubric with kind of the shell of the portfolio of the work that they do, and then they just have to fill in pages and fill the content into that three-ring binder. But so the first thing students can do after making a portfolio is connect with their project partners. They can invite them as collaborators and or owners, so they have similar rights to that same portfolio. They can work in a period of, in this case, is about 60 days. Just to give you a little bit of context, we have hosted competitions in the past where students are working for an entire school year for their engineering capstone experience and documenting it on the Innovation Portal. For this case, when Ryan says it's the first competition that we've hosted, it means it's the first competition that's relevant or applicable to students are more traditionally in grades 9 through 11, because typically it's some 11th graders, but mostly 12th graders that actually take that capstone experience. And so this is the first time we've opened this competition or a competition up for 9th to 11th graders. So it's a little bit more of a compressed time frame. It may be one project in their engineering course, or it may be work that they're doing outside of their PLTW class time. Whereas in the past we've hosted competitions where students have worked on this for an entire school year and focused and dedicated an entire course to build this portfolio. So it's a little bit less in scope, similar parameters, and you'll see how if you've judged in the past, which I think we have a few judges on the line that judged engineering capstone work in the past, the rubric is significantly cut down and the scope is a little bit more relevant for a student that has worked on it for 60 days versus an entire school year. So the next thing students can do is get connected to their teacher. So the teacher might only have view rights on the portfolio. They just want to check in on the work that the group is doing every once in a while. They don't really need to make any edits. And then the last type of person that can connect to the portfolio is actually could be relevant for you in the future if you choose to be a project mentor for students that are working on portfolios. They can invite project mentors to do a review of their work. of their portfolio, and they're using the exact same mechanism that you're going to use to evaluate their work in the context of a competition with a final score associated with it. But project mentors, throughout the build process of the portfolio and their actual work, project mentors can give them that formative feedback to students to help make their work better. So if you're interested in the opportunity like that in the future, you'll receive an invitation to do that when it becomes time. They normally start in the beginning of the school year, but if you're interested in taking another step into this and seeing the students while they're working and building their portfolios and moving past just evaluation, and you have a little bit more time that you could give a student group, we can invite you to participate in that way as well. It requires a little bit more preparation because we got to get through some volunteer systems normally at the school level to get you signed in as a volunteer and then meet whatever district requirements they have. So back to the portfolio, the student portfolio. Once they create the portfolio, they get feedback from teachers, work with their collaborators, they can submit it to a competition. In theory, they can submit to multiple competitions, but what we find, especially for this competition, because this is the first one that we're hosting, is they're probably only going to submit to one in this case that you're going to be judging for, but especially relevant on the capstone courses, they could submit to multiple competitions. We see those competitions that are typically offered state by state though. So there's currently a competition in Oklahoma, there's a competition in, last year there was one in Illinois, there's one in Wisconsin, and then I think the Kansas City area, 2 states, is finishing up judging right now. They're in their judging process for that capstone experience. And being a digital thing, you can create as many portfolios as you want. It's pretty cheap to make more pages on a web page, and so students can make as many portfolios as they'd like. They could even make one maybe in 9th grade relevant for this competition, and then when they get to that capstone experience a couple years later, they could create another portfolio with a different rubric that's relevant for that full year-long capstone experience. So I'm going to take a quick pause for questions while I log in. Feel free to put anything in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask a question. I'm going to log into here and kind of show you a demo of exactly what it will look like when you're a judge, logging into the innovation portal. All right, no questions, so we will move on. So the first step is to log in, and you'll have to log in with the same email address that we send the invitation to, so that's why it's important that we know what email you're going to be using just so that we can connect the right account to it. So when you log in, you have a left-hand navigation window over here. It by default puts you in My Portfolios because most of the users that are going to be going to the innovation portal are actually going to be building a portfolio, and those are mostly students. You're a judge, however, so you're not the most common use case, but so you won't be using this tab, but that's why we have it default to My Portfolios. Your page here could look a little bit different. So right now you see 3 portfolios that this account is attached to. Yours will maybe be a orange splash screen that you see here, and it could prompt you to create a portfolio on that screen if you'd want to. Unless you create a portfolio, it won't have access to a portfolio, so it will be just a bunch of blank content. So it puts a splash screen there. So don't be alarmed if you see a little bit different interface here for the first time you log in. So I want to show you, the first thing I want to show you is My Notifications. This is where you can go in and accept any notifications and see any notifications that are happening with your account on the innovation portal. So there's at least 2 that are going to be relevant to you. The first one is being connected to a competition. You can accept that invitation either through the email link, or you can accept it through this notification panel here, which we don't have one here, but you can click down and then it'll say View Invitation. Click on that and then click Accept. So that's one way you could accept it, or you could just click the link in the email address. Either one should work. This, however, is this example of the second one that you're going to see, which is a notification that you've received an actual piece of student work to evaluate. Now, we can't show you that right now because we're in that phase of student working right now, so we don't have student work to actually assign you. However, on May 1st, we will. So on May 1st, or whenever Ryan and I, hopefully a little bit earlier than that, when we send those out, when we distribute, automatically push all those portfolios out so you have access to somewhere between 3 and 5 pieces of student work to evaluate, you'll get a notification here. And those 3 to 5 portfolios that you get assigned to review they'll take probably 3 to 5 hours each, and so 3 to 5 hours total. I'm sorry, 1 hour each. Although that might be a little bit less this year. This is the first time we've done judging with this new rubric that we've developed that's relevant for more of a 60-day project and less of the whole year project. So it might even take you less because we've tried to pare down that rubric to match that amount of time students are utilizing. So on the senior capstone evaluations, we say about an hour per portfolio, a little bit more the first time to read the rubric, a little bit less after the first one because you'll know the rubric and you'll just have to read the student work. It might take you a little bit less though here, and actually that's one thing we would be interested in to hear about on the back end once you've done the evaluation, how much time it took you per portfolio, so we could give a more accurate estimation to future judges. So that's the notification panel. The main thing that you're going to be clicking and going into when you get access to the portfolios to review is going to be in opportunities, and that's where we find all the competitions that are hosted on the innovation portal. So we can see all the current ones here that are current, and what I mean by current is that these are available for student submissions either now or in the future. So once a competition is inactive and students can't submit to a competition, it goes to this past filter button here. It goes into the past bucket. That's all the stuff that happened last year and the stuff that all the competitions that have already completed for this school year. When you're judging, you're only going to be judging a competition that is not currently available for student submission. So you're always going to have to click this pass button here as a judge. Before we do that though, we can click into the 2017 competition. This is the actual competition you'll be judging. If you want to, you can take a look at it and look at the overview you may have already. You can read a description. This is kind of like the RFP that we put out for students and the prompt that we gave them to submit their work. You could register, but I wouldn't recommend that because that might mess up our registration numbers. And actually, if you filled out that your professional won't let you. But anyway, you can read this and you can take a look at the timeline there if you'd like to. Note here, though, that you don't have a menu bar on top, and they'll become relevant in a moment. So if you click back, we can see all the competitions. We have a competition in Oklahoma, Minnesota, currently live, and then these other two ones are ways that we share student work with other groups. So this is a group of people at NSF that are currently doing research on the capstone rubric that we utilize on the innovation portal. So they're evaluating the student work that's done and how judges actually do that evaluation. And there a couple research papers have been published on that. Pretty academically rigorous process that they're going through, and they need access to some student work, so that's how we do that. And then also this WISC, the Wisconsin Innovative Service Center, is a group that some competitions submit their winning work to get some market analysis work done for them. A lot of the capstone projects, not a lot of them, but an insignificant, non-insignificant percentage of them go on to become a patent or look into ways to market the work that they've done. It's pretty in-depth engineering work that they do, and so some of these competitions actually give that as a prize so that the student work can be evaluated for marketability. So it's a pretty neat opportunity. But anyway, those two aren't competitions, but we share access. You're going to be clicking on this pass button here. So if you click on the pass button, you can see all the past competitions hosted on the innovation portal. Well, actually just only 1 year back. We only keep 1 year worth of past competitions here because it would get a little bit too cluttered if we kept everything. But you can see the Kansas City competitions right here. They're currently in evaluation phase right now with the judges. I think it's due at the end of the week for those judges, and then they have a big prize presentation showcase in Kansas City next week on Tuesday, I believe. So it's pretty neat. It's kind of the same. That we're going to be using the Project Lead the Way Summit as an opportunity to recognize the student work that that's evaluated as the winning team during your process of judging. So their presentations next week. Ours will be in October. But anyway, our competition will move here. The 2017 Engineering Design Competition will move here as soon as student submission closes, and so you'll always go to here. Today I'm going to be clicking on this example competition just for training purposes to show you, because we don't have student work to show you yet because they haven't submitted it. So you'll find the 2017 Engineering Design Competition here in the pass bucket. I'm just clicking on this one to show you what it will look like. So earlier I promised I would show you how to tell if you're a judge. This is how to do that. So this account is a judge for this competition because I have this menu bar up here. This is the exact same view as the other competition, the 2017 competition that I showed you, the one that's relevant for us, except this doesn't really have any information filled out. And we have this menu bar on top. We can view it. We also have reviews. So to access the student work, once we assign it to you on May 1st, you can click Reviews here and open up all the reviews that you are assigned. So right now, this account, this will have your account name on your interface. Right now, it has completed 1 review out of 2 total assigned. So you'll be receiving somewhere between 3 and 5. So it'll be a little bit different numbers. The complete one is tagged as complete, and then active if it still needs to be judged. So we can click on the title to actually view the student work. Go into here. All right, so on the right-hand side, we have a new menu bar now. We have that 3-ring binder, that portfolio structure that we use on the Innovation Portal to document student work. We end up, by default, on the cover page. No work here will actually be evaluated by you. This is, it's a nice to have. Sometimes students put pictures of themselves. Sometimes they put like a summary picture of their project, or maybe an executive summary that you can read, but nothing is evaluated on this page. To actually go to the first page of work that's evaluated, go ahead and click B. And by the way, it's intentional, it's not A. We have multiple versions of this rubric, and we use this one that doesn't include part A, and so you're only evaluating B through H for this rubric here. So this is just some filler content that we put in here, that what student work might look like. They can be typing, they can type up, they can put bullet points, they can put numbered lists, they can embed videos, like maybe from YouTube. So here's a video embedded here. They can also put pictures. Actually, a lot of times we see students record tests. Now with smartphones being as popular as they are, a lot more, even back in 2011 when we started this, we didn't see a lot of videos of tests, but now we do. It's kind of neat. We can see the actual testing that they record and they upload a YouTube video and embed it right into their portfolio here. So it's pretty cool. So let's start on the rubric here. So element B is define the problem, research. So the first step that students will have to do is research their problem that they're going to be addressing, and really kind of justifying and learning about the content that they're going to be addressing in their entire project. You have a couple different things available to you as judges. This is the exact same view that students have, so they can see all of this rubric before they start working. So you're looking at the same thing they are, so you can hold them to this expectation. So the first thing are the reflective questions. When I talk to students, I talk to them about a checklist to use of different things they need to provide the judge to be able to get a perfect or a high score. And so they can ask themselves the questions: did you offer the reviewers of this portfolio research that is directly related to the problem? So did they provide research? Did they embed the research in here? Did they display it? Did they make sure that it's relevant to the problem in some way? And so you can kind of read through this. The way I recommend using this for your purposes is read through this to kind of get an understanding of the general content that will be covered in this specific element. Like, what are we going to be evaluating students on? We're not going to be evaluating on testing at this point, only the research and only these bullet points. And actually, that's another good point. We're only going to be scoring each element individually. So we're not going to be reading back and thinking about what was in element B while we're evaluating element F. It's contained to each element when you evaluate, so don't cross over any information. If they provided it in B and they should have provided it again in F and they didn't, that doesn't matter. Just go ahead and dock them. Only evaluate based on the element that you are evaluating. So you have these reflective questions, then you have the actual score descriptors. So our score ranges from 0 all the way to 5. But there are only score descriptors on 1, 3, and 5. So this is one thing we did to simplify the rubric to make it relevant for that smaller project size, is we only have score descriptors on 1, 3, 5. So 4 is intentionally left blank, but you can still use the score of 4 if the work falls pretty cleanly between a 3 and a 5. So this is really the heart of what we're asking you to do is read the score descriptor of 3, read the student work, and decide if that student work, if this score descriptor of 3 fits that student work that you're evaluating. Pretty difficult job to do consistently. And so you could read 3 carefully, read 5 carefully, and if you think it's pretty close to a 3, you can assign a 3. If you think it's a little bit higher, if you think it's higher than a 3, maybe close to the score descriptor of a 5, maybe not quite there, you can give them a score of 5. So they don't need to perfectly meet every single requirement of a 5. They just need to be closer to a 5 than a 3. And then if you think it's pretty solidly somewhere in between the descriptor of a 3 and a 5, you can put a score of 4. You can use that to give yourself a little bit more resolution to when doing this evaluation. So you have descriptors for 1, 3, and 5, but you can use 2 and 4. If student work is left blank, we have had this in the past, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes you get students that don't finish their work and submit it anyway, and just go ahead and submit a score of 0. And that's that. So because it's a virtual online competition, you don't really get the chance to look around an entire room and kind of gauge what the level of performance is or the level of student work in the entire room, and then gauge if you're assigned only 3, then where does your 3 kind of fall in the pack. You don't get the chance to do that here because you're only taking a look at 3, and those 3 could be the bottom 3 portfolios, or they could be the top most high-performing student work. So it really just is kind of a random draw what you get to take a look at, and that's why it's so important to read the score descriptors carefully and really evaluate based on your interpretation of the score descriptor and not in relation from one portfolio to another that you've been assigned, because you could get 3 evenly scattered portfolios, and when they end up in the final rankings for scores, you could get the top, you could get the bottom. So really lean on those score descriptors. And then the last section that you have available, well, you don't have available, are the scored element examples. This, on the capstone rubric, we have a pretty exhaustive library of student work that we can use to give you a perfect example of what each score is. So like an actual piece of student work that has been scored as a score of 3 by a panel of expert reviewers that teach engineering education. That is a resource that we don't have for this competition because it's the first competition. However, we're going to be using your scoring to really set that baseline to build that library up in the future. And so the work that you're doing is really even more important than this current competition. The work that you do in this competition is going to set the baseline for years to come for pulling student work down and setting the example for these scored element examples. And future judges will be looking at your work that you score and then using that to set the baseline for themselves. So thank you again for your time. I know it's not easy to volunteer and spend your time with us on an interview, us on this webinar, and maybe even late in the night, but we really appreciate the time that you're putting into this. It really enables a lot of things to happen, a lot of competitions happen, not just this one. All right, so let's say this student work, this example student work, we think it should get a score of 3. When I click 3 here, it's not assigning a score of 3. It's just viewing the rubric. So to actually score it, I need to click this blue pin icon in the bottom right. If we go to an analogy of a science fair, this is kind of like taking a clipboard from the score keeper table, and then this is your sheet of paper that you actually write down on that you're going to turn in. So we said this may be a score of 3. We can click that. That actually saves it and records your score. You can also go back and view the rubric in another way. So if you click 2 and 3, you can kind of go back and read those score descriptors. You have 1 here, you have 3 and 5. You can read those, and you can also click on 4, but there's really no information for you in 4 and 2. It by default starts on the question mark. That is in effect you as a judge leaving it blank. So if you want to actually assign a score of 0, go ahead and click that 0. That's for blank work or work that is just below a 0, below a 1. You can assign score 0. A question mark is effectively a 0, but we ask that you do put a score of 0 in there, just because we know that some judges are learning the interface and sometimes accidentally submit blank score sheets, and it's good for us to know that it wasn't a mistake if you put a 0. So that lets us know it wasn't a mistake. So we can close that by clicking that there. Comments. We can put a comment in here. Here's a comment. So there are a couple different ways your comments will be used. Now, I suggest you put a comment, no matter how small, into each one because it really helps us. The first thing that is going to be used for is in any tie-breaking scenario, we go and dig into the comments to see which portfolio is going to win. This has happened quite a few times for the capstone competitions. A lot of the top performing portfolios end up with a lot of 4s and 5s because students that really pay attention and read the requirements of the rubric, they can meet that requirement and get a lot of 5s. And so we do end up in scenarios where there's a lot of tied student work if students are really paying attention and following that rubric. And so to determine the tiebreakers, we use the comments to kind of separate it out a little bit. So if you put a comments in there, put your thoughts in on why you scored it, that score, and that will really help us make a determination at the end once all the scoring is in to make sure any tie-breaking scenarios we can actually, break the tie. So there's a comment. Another way that your comment may be used is to actual feedback to the students. So we'll be providing comments, your comments to the student's teacher to use as an instructional tool at their discretion. So we don't do, it's not raw and unfiltered directly to the students, so it will be to the teachers. We'll give it to them to use as they see fit with that discretion to use as a learning tool or not. But your comments may come back to students and they will be used in tie-breaking scenarios. In the past, they've also been used as a research tool on the engineering capstone one. We're not quite there with this rubric, but your comments have been, in the past, judge comments have been used to understand why they're scoring a score of 3 because there's been research on the consistency of scoring, between judges for the same student work. And the comments provide some insight on that. So that's been used, it's been used like that in the past, but we're not there with this rubric, so your comments won't be used like that here. It's just feedback and tie-breaking. So we close that. Everything is saved automatically. There's no save button, so don't get worried if you don't see the save button. If we click that again, we can see here's a comment. We can see that's a score of 3. And then if we go over to C, if we actually click it, we can load that student work, load the next score sheet, see that it's by default a 5 here. It should be a question mark. Maybe I got in there and clicked earlier. But if we click back to B and open that up, we can see that's still saved. So we have a score of 3. And here we have our comment. So let's go ahead and go into C. We can look at the score descriptors on 5, 3, and 1, intentionally blank for 2 and 4, and sadly no scored examples, but you're helping us build that library. If we open up the scoring panel, we can, maybe I did really good on this one, score 5, and then here is another comment. Could be short, could be long. Really what we're looking for is insight into why you're scoring it that way. Put score sheet down, maybe go on to D, put a score in here as well. Maybe they didn't do so hot in this one, score 2. Put a comment in there, close the score sheet. And then the way we actually complete this review and send it back to Ryan and I for final tallying is clicking complete review here. And this loads our page that I like to call the Amazon shopping cart. This is like your chance to review everything you've done. So we put scores in for B, C, and D. We can see the scores here, 3, 5, and 2. If we forgot one, we can see a question mark. That means it's going to be scored as a 0 and you haven't completed it yet. If we want to, let's say we accidentally forgot one, we didn't click one going on the down, we can see the question mark, and then we can click back on our browser there, go into E, submit a score, put a comment in, complete review. And it just brings us back to this page with that reviewed here, that 3 there. So let's scroll down a little bit. So going back to that science fair analogy, if you, for some reason, had to mail in your score sheet later, this is kind of relevant here. So if you had, this is all your score sheet for one portfolio. If you put it all up in an envelope and then put a stamp on it, this is putting the stamp on it, kind of putting that, putting a stamp on there, and then clicking complete review means it's final. It's like dropping it in the mailbox. It's going to come back to Ryan and I, and you can't take it back at this point. We have to program in a point where you can't really take it back, because at some point Ryan and I need to designate first, second, and third place. And the way we do that is just making sure that you can't go back and change it, because you could be working on it and then change it, and that's fine within the judging window, but at some point we need a commitment that this is the final score to determine the top 3. And so this is how we do that. If you click complete review, that sends it in, drops it in the mailbox. It has come back to Ryan and I, and we have gotten your score. So I think this is the one we scored. In the left-hand navigation menu over here, we're in My Reviews. This is where you can see all of the reviews that you've done on the Innovation Portal, and I think there's a few of you that have judged in the past on the Innovation Portal, so you may have more than just this competition located here. So you may have some EDD ones or the Engineering Capstone course in here that you did last year, and then there will be your new ones once you're assigned in May 1st. So we did this one. It looks like that one is complete, and then it looks like this if it's still active. Got a blue label there and says active, and you could go in there and evaluate it from here. But let's go back into the one we just did. We can still view the student work. So this is the cover page. This is B. We can see that YouTube video that we put in there. Some nice filler text that we put there as well. But we don't have that blue pen icon down in the bottom right. That means we can't change the score. But if we click Review Summary, you can see all the work that you've done on all your comments. So you can review what you've done, you just can't change anything at this point. There's nothing back there to take it back. So if you go back to review, you can still see the student work. And then another way to see this is if you click Opportunities, you can go to the competition. You'll be looking for the 2017 PLTW Engineering Design Competition, but it will be in this Past bucket. You click that Past bucket there. Just for training purposes, I'm going to click this competition here. And if we go to Reviews, remember this is how we know that we're a judge. This menu up here, that verifies that we are a judge connected to the competition correctly. We can click Reviews, and we can see that we now have 2 of 2 complete portfolios. So that's it. We've completed all the evaluation we need to do. We can see that each of them are complete, and they're good to go. So you've completed everything you need to do. So you'll get somewhere between 3 and 5 portfolios, depending on the number of student submissions that we get and how many times we need to evaluate them. Each student portfolio, we want at least 3 different people to have eyes on it to make sure we have a good representative sample of judges, and they get an average score. So that with the number of judges, number of student submissions, that means you'll get somewhere between 3 and 5 portfolios to evaluate. So that is it. That really completes this part of the training. I want to pause for any questions while I have this open. I can show you any interface that I've clicked around. Is there any questions either through the chat window, or you can feel free to unmute and ask them as well? All right, quiet group today. Okay, so going back, I'm going to let Ryan take this, and he's going to follow up with you with a few things that you'll get by tomorrow with a follow-up email after this training, and some additional resources.
Thank you, Elliot. Real quick, I just kind of want to wrap everything up. If anyone has any questions on anything, if it's later tonight, in a week, during the judging time frame, which is May 1st to the 12th, don't ever hesitate to email innovation@pltw.org. Either Elliot or myself are more than happy to assist you. So within the next 24 to 48 hours, I will be sending you a follow-up email with some additional resources. One of the first ones is, we understand it might help you to kind of understand the rubric before you actually start judging. Maybe take a look at that in the next couple of days, start to digest that. So we will send you out a PDF copy of the engineering design rubric that you will be utilizing, as well as a step-by-step guide for judges as well. So we'll kind of go over how to access your portfolios, where to go in notifications, and how to kind of navigate around the Innovation Portal when it comes time to reviewing the portfolios. As well as we will be sending out a recording of this webinar or this training as well. One thing we didn't mention, but we always like to kind of bring this up, it isn't really that big of it's really that kind of can become a huge issue, is make sure you are using Google Chrome or Firefox when you are reviewing the portfolios. We have found those to be the best web browsers to use when it comes time to reviewing, and that's just kind of what the Innovation Portal prefers that we utilize as well. As well as make sure you are successfully connected to the competition. Again, I'm going to hit it one more time. The judging window will be open May 1st to the 12th, as well as we ask you to have all portfolios to us reviewed by May 12th. And if anything comes up, all of a sudden you realize that you have to travel, last minute travel, email us. We understand that life does get in the way and you might have to decline this opportunity, and we are perfectly okay with that. We would just rather know sooner rather than later so we can get judges, we have more time to find someone to review those portfolios. For one more time, does anyone have any questions or anything that we can answer for you? I do know that Elliot and myself will be staying on just a couple more minutes after the call ends just to answer any questions that you might have. So is there anything else I can answer? Elliot, do you want to have any lasting comments or anything along those lines?
So last thing I want to say is just thank you again. I know a lot of you from a few companies. One of them being Chevron. You may see the logo down there. Chevron's been instrumental in supporting the innovation portal in general, and one of the main impetuses behind hosting this competition and providing this opportunity to students. So both from supporting the innovation portal and providing your time and letting us have access to give this opportunity to you to see if you want to volunteer for it. So it's a very big thank you both to you and your company for helping out with that. It's an opportunity present to students for the first time this spring that would just totally not be possible without the time you're putting into it. So just thank you for that. I know I know this hour that we took here was a valuable hour. I think someone was cooking as well with their family, so thank you for that. And then the 3 to 5 hours you're going to spend evaluating student work to make it possible for us to recognize on a national level some work to get that students have done out of their classroom. And so it's really wouldn't be possible without you, so thank you very much. I will be staying on the line a few more minutes, but that concludes our training. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.